Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and being here. We're going to be talking about Data Protection 101, why fighting ransomware should be your top priority. And you see on the screen here that we have two Gartner logos. I just want to quickly address that. The Gartner 2015 logo, we were a cool vendor in business continuity and disaster recovery. And then the 2016 Gartner logo, we were a visionary in disaster recovery as a service in the Magic Quadrant with Gartner this year. So lots of good stuff happening here. Just wanted to share that with you guys. And then a quick intro just so you know my contact info. My name is Carla Federico and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Infrascale, and I wanted to share my contacts with you so that you can reach out to me at any time. I'd love to speak with you further. It doesn't have to just be in this webinar presentation. And then a couple of housekeeping items at the bottom. First off is that I frequently get asked, is there a recording of this presentation? So yes, there is a recording, and you will be able to see that at www.infrascale.com/webinars, and that will be posted within the next 24 hours. We usually get those up right away. And then also, I frequently get asked, is there a copy of the slides? And yes, there is a copy of the slides. I'm going to put them into the handouts during the presentation. So you'll see them in there shortly. Right now, 2 handouts are already in there, so just working on uploading those documents for you. And those 2 documents that you already see in there, we have a really helpful report in there, the Disaster Recovery Attitudes and Adoption Report, and that's from 2016. And then we also have a ransomware survival guide in there for you. So lots of really helpful info. Please go ahead and grab those 2 handouts, and then you'll see a copy of the slides pop up there as soon as those are uploaded as well. Last few housekeeping announcements here. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please use the question tool to add those questions and comments in. We'll definitely come to the Q&A at the end of the presentation, so ask all those questions in there, and we'll get those answered for you. Finally, we'd love for you to join the conversation. You can follow us on Twitter at Infrascale. You can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and we'd love to hear from you. All right, let's take a look at the agenda. So first we'll discuss the evolution of ransomware. We'll talk about those best practices for prevention, how to recover from an attack, and more importantly, how to avoid those attacks from occurring. So we are going to talk to that in just a minute. And then we're also going to do the Q&A with our senior sales engineer, Aaron Jordan. He's been with Infrascale for years, and I always challenge everyone to stump him with their tough technical questions. I haven't seen it happen yet, so we'll try it again today. So let's get started with just a quick definition of, what is ransomware, and let's take a look at how it's evolved over time and just get a really clear understanding quickly of what we're talking about here. So ransomware is a type of malware that denies access to a device or files until a ransom has been paid. So it's a type of malicious software, and it's designed to block access to a computer system until that money has been paid. Now, where an even bigger problem sets in is that ransomware encrypts the files on a workstation, and then it can travel across your network and also encrypt files on your network drives. So that's how one single infected user can bring a whole department or even an entire organization to a screeching halt. Now, let's take a look at where ransomware started and how it's changed over time. We know that since computers have been in use, programmers have been able to create malicious software. Even earlier than what you see on your screen, before 1986, 1989, the Creeper virus, that was created in 1971. And that's a really early example of how quickly malware can spread through systems. And the proliferation of malware moving at such an alarming rate. If you look through around the 2006 to 2010 timeline here, where the introduction of high-speed encryption came into play, there was as much malware produced in 2007 as had been produced in the previous 20 years altogether. So really moving at such an alarming rate. When you take a look at 2014 and now in 2016, we saw the rise of Bitcoin as cryptocurrency. And then we're starting to see CryptoLocker, LOCKY. These are a couple of examples that we're going to talk about more in detail because they are really important to note some of those things that are happening with these more recent strains of ransomware. So where that leaves us is that now in 2016, there are two types of organizations out there. Those that have been breached and those that have been breached but just don't know it yet. Right? So let's take a look at some of those trends then and how this is happening. Well, almost 3,000 new malware modifications were reported in the first quarter of 2016. And if you get one of those ransom demands, then paying it involves that e-currency like Bitcoin. Once the hackers have verified that payment, then they provide the decryptor software, and then you can start the long process of decrypting all your files. That's why the fastest response times until you're back up and running take about 2 days, and that can actually get up to 5 days in other cases. Nearly 3/4 of ransomware victims were completely unable to access their data and systems for 2 full days. And we know they're getting away with it. Take a look at the amount of money paid in ransom. So these are some stats and reports from the FBI. In the first 3 months of 2016, we see that over $200 million has been paid in ransomware. Now compare that with all of 2015 combined. There was a total of over $25 million. So you can just see right there how exponentially this is increasing. Now, one really big problem, of course, is that you have no idea for weeks or months. 34% of SMBs fell prey to phishing emails in 2015. That's the last stat here on this page. And once it gets into your system, it starts to work slowly, silently in the background. It's working on old files. It's starting with encrypting those based on the last date opened, maybe the last date modified. So it's changing those files, but you'll never notice it and never see it until you get a triggered ransom demand. So one of those triggered demands is going to look something like this. Now, when ransomware first started in the past, you know, when we saw that timeline, the ransom started around $300 to $500. You can even see in some of these examples, in the one that's gray, in the background in gray, that cost was $300 US. The one in the middle, it looks like $200. But fast forward to 2016, companies now are being hit with ransoms in the thousands of dollars. And then they say that the ransom increases as the hours pass if you don't reply. So it's getting to be far too much. Of course, that's why all of us are on this webinar today to fix this situation, right? Now, on top of that, there are many different strains of ransomware. Here's where I said we were going to come back to some of these examples with CryptoLocker, LOCKY, Ransom32. Now, so CryptoLocker it's targeting computers running Windows, and of course restricts access to those infected computers. Now, CryptoLocker was being spread through fake emails, and they were designed to mimic the look of legitimate businesses. So they were coming through as phony FedEx and UPS tracking notices. I even got to my personal account one of those email, a phony FedEx email, which I recognized right away. Actually, what I'm going to do for the next webinar is take a screenshot of that and put it in here for you guys to see as well. Now, Ransom32 is really scary as well because it's like a variety of ransomware as a service. It puts the power to create ransomware into the hands of anyone, even regardless of any of their technical know-how. So that one's also especially dangerous because it's coded entirely using JavaScript, which means it can be used to target computers running Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux. So really, I think what we've all learned to date is that everyone has critical data, and we're all at risk at the moment for these types of attacks. Now, there are many other types and strains of ransomware out there. One in particular is LOCKY that I know we've all heard of quite recently. It renames all your important files so that they have the extension .locky to them. And I just want to spend a little bit more time on LOCKY because it's really changed the game in ransomware. First off, it's targeting a worldwide audience, and it has that worldwide reach. Businesses in Europe, in Japan, New Zealand, Australia, they've all been hit with massive email spam campaigns carrying that malicious JavaScript attachment. Even closer to home, businesses here are being targeted as well with really similar types of spam attacks. Amazon.com was one, and they were targeted by a massive phishing campaign. Estimated about 30 to 100 million spam messages were sent out claiming to be shopping updates. And then they're definitely targeting businesses. And that goes back to what we saw just a minute ago. In the past, ransoms started in the maybe $300 to $500 range, and now they're demanding thousands of dollars. And since it gets in via one single user, that one user can then spread the malware through the entire network, of course accidentally. But this is what we've seen happening. So what do you do if you're infected? And then more importantly, how do you prevent an attack from happening? Well, let's first just talk about what to do if you're infected, right? And then we'll get to the rest in just a moment here. So if you are infected, here are some of the symptoms that you're going to notice. If you suddenly can't open your normal files, maybe a window opens with one of those ransom demands, you see a trigger countdown saying that a ransom is going to increase. Maybe you see some files renamed with things like how to decrypt files or decrypt instructions. So all of these are going to be some clear signals and symptoms that you may be victim to a ransomware attack. So what do you do immediately if you get infected? As soon as you see that happening, if you do get infected, the first thing you should do is get the infected machine off the network. So first and foremost, you want to stop the malware from spreading. You always need to assume, too, that it's using that internet connection, spreading itself to other users. So you want to isolate that machine, stop all network communication from the spread of that malware. And then second, you want to reset your BIOS time. So you can essentially stop the clock. It's going to give you more time to prepare your backups and prepare your recovery. You don't necessarily need to be afraid of that ransomware countdown timer if you just set your BIOS time back. So then you can calm down, recover those key files, and eliminate the malware. Third, if you are hit with malware, roll back from a previous backup. So having that recent backup is going to make it much easier for you to restore operations as quickly and painlessly as possible. It's going to save you money and time for yourself and for your business. And these are the steps you want to take if you get infected with malware and you see that ransomware today, for example. But what we want to do now is move into those best practices. So we really want to work against ransomware. And we want to get a best practice system in place for you so that you don't need to worry about scrambling, trying to roll back from a previous backup should we pay the ransom. We're going to introduce a system to you that gives you proactive alerting and is going to get you set up properly. Now, I also want to make quick mention, of course, if you lack sophisticated cybersecurity infrastructure for anti-malware, to stop things once they're already on your system, then you're at risk. But right now, the case is that nobody is immune to these types of high-profile attacks. And we know that everyone has irreplaceable data, everyone has critical data. So we don't want you to have to be stuck with that ransom payment. So let's get a new set of best practices for you. I do want to now, though, run a quick poll first. So I'm going to pull up this poll here, simply asking, when it comes to ransomware, which of these is you? So you guys have heard a bit from me, and I'd love to hear from you as well. And in that poll that I've just launched there, we've got already 20% of you have voted. I'll just leave this up for a moment to let everyone participate. So when it comes to ransomware, which of these is you? A, yes, I've been a victim of ransomware. B, no, I haven't experienced this type of breach. Or C, I don't think I'll be affected by ransomware. And now we've got 70% of you who voted. And for those of you answering it, I'll share the poll results in just a minute here. For those of you who I can see are answering A, yes, I've been a victim of ransomware. I'm really curious just to hear what was the situation in the scenario there, and what did you do to recoup that data? So did you pay the ransom? Did you roll back from a previous backup? How much time did you lose, and how much data did you lose? Those of you answering B, I can see we're almost at a split. We're about 50-50 now, saying yes, I have, and no, I haven't. Nobody's answered C. I don't think I'll be affected by ransomware, which is great because I think that's why we're all here today, right? We'll see if everyone can participate in this poll here. I'll just leave it up for another moment. Great. And then sharing the results. It looks like we are 50-50. Half of us on the line today have experienced ransomware and half have not. Now you can use the question tool if you want to type in some more comments there just to let me know what happened and what was the situation. Now really critical to note is what's your cost per hour of downtime? Do you know your cost per hour of downtime? So stats show that for small businesses, the average cost per hour is about $6,000. Now for large enterprises, that cost per hour is over $600,000 per hour. And just for a medium business, medium-sized business, right in the middle, the average cost per hour of downtime was over $200,000 per hour. So ask yourself, is that something that your business can afford? What's going to be more costly, the downtime or the ransomware payment? Now just some things to consider, of course, and some things to think about. If you don't know your cost per hour of downtime, I highly recommend looking into that as well. Okay, you should be back on the screen now. So we're back on, and the screen that you have up now should say avoiding ransomware. BDR can protect you, but only if you do it right. So now we're going to get into those best practices that I just mentioned. All right. Here are a couple of screenshots that I wanted to share with you and show you. These screenshots are from my backup and recovery account with Infrascale. So by default, Infrascale keeps everything, every file ever backed up. And you can see all the folders on my desktop. You can see I can roll back here to May of 2011 in this example just to show that that's really critical that Infrascale keeps everything. And that's because we just learned, right, if you didn't know before, now you do, that ransomware can slowly work discreetly in your systems. And in the background, it's modifying all of those files that you have. And it's starting with the oldest ones based on the last date modified or the last date opened. So you don't even know that it's happening. It can take up to a month or more to get into your system discreetly. So it's not just the idea of having any old backup system in place. You need a backup system with a forever archiving component built in as well. Now, my Infrascale account is not just the backup and recovery software on my machine. So here's a snapshot of my dashboard. And my dashboard is just a unified management console where I can view activity alerts, I can access reporting, monitoring, account usage, retention settings. All that is just right at my fingertips. It doesn't require VPN access. I can log in from any browser. I can use my laptop, a tablet, even my smartphone to get into the dashboard, and then control remote deployments, view all those activities in there, monitor usage and alerts. Now, one really important page that I wanted to share with you from within the dashboard is the account level details. So when ransomware goes through your system, like we just said, it's modifying all the files that it touches. So if it's a file you're backing up, it's going to be recognized as a changed file. Now here in the dashboard, in these account level details, we have analytics of which machines have the most changes. Now what we did is we used analytics and created a brand new monitoring alert. And this alert is called anomaly detection. And I'm going to show you anomaly detection in action live on the next screen here. But just to give you a preview is, if you have a large number of newly modified files, you want to know what that is. It could be ransomware. It's something that you want to investigate. So an average backup, just a normal standard backup, is going to continue as normal with a normal number of changed files. But an unusually large backup is going to trigger that alert, the anomaly alert. And it's going to let the admin know if they're subscribed to monitoring alerts, they're going to get that right there. You're also going to be able to see it within the alert. So then you'll know that it's something that needs to be investigated. So let's take a look at anomaly detection in action. So this is just a quick minute here to show you how to set up that anomaly detection warning. You just go up to the Settings tab and click on Monitoring. And then in the monitoring page, you see here at the bottom, Enable Anomaly Detection. So what we're doing is we're calculating a rolling average number of modified files, and that's for each device over time. And now, if the modified file count for a backup passes this threshold, and it's a predetermined threshold that you set, that's when the warning's released. You can also then open the details if you want to see things. You can take a look at backup duration. You can see total files processed. You simply go to Show All Events, and you can get this info, and that's going to appear there. You can see how many files were modified, the total number, and then you can also download the logs and just select the Manage Action in here if you want to investigate at a file level as well. So with this proactive alerting, first off, nobody has this type of proactive alerting. Not one of the BDR solutions out there today have this. So why wait until you get that ransomware trigger and then quickly scramble to either pay the ransom, roll back to a previous date? You're still losing time, you're losing data. If you have to roll back to say you have to roll back to a month, the previous month, because that ransomware is working slowly and silently, you've just lost an entire month's worth of data, in addition to the time it's going to take to get all of your systems back up and running as normal. Now, this proactive alerting, again, none of the BDR solutions out there today have this. So with that in mind, now that we've seen anomaly detection in action, I have another quick poll that I want to ask. I'd really love to find out from you guys, when it comes to BDR, which of these is you? So A is I can confidently roll back, and that's to a previous backup, within 15 minutes. B, I wish I had backup in disaster recovery, but I just can't afford it. And C, I don't think still that I'll be affected by ransomware. So far, we've got about 50% of you have voted. We'll get a few more votes in. And now we have just a few more of you guys left to vote. If you would like to participate, then go ahead and reach forward and vote. We're again right about 50-50 with A and B this time. And then in this case, for those of you answering A, I can confidently roll back within 15 minutes. Can you roll back within 5 minutes? What would that look like for you? And then those of you B, I wish I had backup in disaster recovery, but just can't afford it. We're going to talk about that in just a moment coming up here. So far, nobody's answered C, but we're about split again, just like we were for the last poll, 50-50 when it comes to A and B. I can confidently roll back to a previous backup within 15 minutes, and then again, I'm questioning you guys to say, can you roll back within 5? And then B, I wish I had backup and disaster recovery, but just can't afford it. So we are going to come to the discussion on pricing, of course, as well. We will talk about it. All right, from this poll now, we're going to move on to how to actually work against ransomware and how to combat this from happening to you. So what if backup isn't enough? You know, we just kind of looked at, well, you have these options. You can pay the ransom. You could roll back to your previous backup. We have this awesome anomaly detection setting that gives you a proactive warning alert, and then you can back up from that point without losing weeks worth of data, without taking hours or days to recover that. Now, what if backup just isn't enough for you, though? What if there were a better, faster, more efficient, more simple solution? That's where disaster recovery comes into play, on-demand disaster recovery or on-demand failover. We call it DRaaS, Disaster Recovery as a Service. And with DRaaS, you're able to quickly and effectively recover a clean version of your entire environment, not just files and folders, so that end users keep working. Now let's take a look at how that works in action. So here are some end users just working as normal. You've got all of the servers, applications, workstations, laptops, everything here, where when that attack happens, you can see those red X's indicate any type of downtime. It could be ransomware, it could be a flood, it could be hardware failure, it could be human error, any single type of outage or downtime. From here, you can see that with on-demand failover, you can simply log in, and again, from any browser you could do this, even on a laptop, a tablet, or a smartphone. You can roll back to a previous date and instantly recover a clean version of the entire environment, instantly, just the push of a button. And that way, everyone keeps working. And this entire process happens usually in about 60 to 90 seconds. Now, we guarantee that it will happen in 15 minutes or less. Let's take a closer look at this and really understand what's going on here. Here's a more detailed way to look at that. On the left, you see cloud backup, and on the right, you see DRaaS, Disaster Recovery as a Service. So in your traditional backup flow on the left, you have your production box, and then you have your backup server next to it, and then it's copying data to some storage. It could be copying to the cloud, it could be copying to any offsite storage, maybe tape drive, maybe on-prem disk, any type of storage, just copying data over. And when that disaster happens, be it an outage from hardware failure or human error, or being a ransomware attack, you then need to copy all of that data back out of storage. Then you need to reconfigure, reboot. This all takes a lot of time. As you can see, in the end, it does take days to recover. And we saw earlier it can take 2 to 5 days in some cases. So let's take a look at the right side. So the new way here of doing things with DRaaS, Disaster Recovery as a Service. With DRaaS, we don't want to have to copy everything twice, back and forth, moving data. We simply want to spin up a working environment where that data is. So we move compute resources to where the data sits. We can virtualize and create all those machines on the fly, reconstruct your entire data center infrastructure right where your data is sitting. And we guarantee that happens in 15 minutes or less. And so what we're really trying to do in our mission is to eradicate downtime and data loss. We're completely focused on business continuity because, as we saw, modern ransomware attacks, it's been changing over time. Now they can spread across your network. They can encrypt data on servers and on network folders and other computers. One of the biggest immediate issues that you have have is that your entire network goes down and your business operations completely shut down. So backup was the best solution when the issue was just data loss. But now we're facing massive business interruption, and DR becomes a far better solution. You're actually going to see in the next 5 to 10 years, backup and recovery is going to disappear. It's going to be replaced by on-demand failover and by DRAS solutions. So of course, we have a backup and recovery solution for you. But what you do want to be looking at and what you should be looking at moving forward is a failover solution that works for you. So a quick note on security, right? Security and data privacy, we take it very seriously. So rather than other solutions just taking raw files and sending them to the cloud, Infrascale uses military-grade double-blind encryption to protect data. It's really the best practice here as compared to any other methods that other solutions might be using. Here you can see by this diagram that encryption locally, in transit, and at rest, and it's the only way to truly ensure that your data is secure. A couple of other quick notes, frequent questions that I get asked, is that in addition to that, Infrascale is a completely end-to-end solution. So you do have that double-blind encryption I just mentioned. You have protection for all servers, workstations, and endpoints. You have unlimited archiving with that proactive alerting that we saw. So that anomaly detection proactive alert system. You have automated data protection with retention policies and admin control. Unlimited test recoveries. That allows you to ensure the policies you set are working the way you want it. Think of how it used to be with testing. It would be so complicated that you'd maybe only test once a year, if that. Imagine being able to test every single day. And then 24/7 support, and we offer that 365 days per year. So enough with all the details, right? Let's talk pricing. How much does this all cost? In that last poll that we did, about 50% of you said, I wish I had failover DR, I wish I had disaster recovery, and I just can't afford it. I think that what you'll find with these next few slides is how we address the issue of cost is that Infrascale delivers on-demand cloud backup DR as a service for the price of backup. And again, we guarantee that 15-minute failover, which nobody else can offer. Here you can see we do a quick comparison. And in this comparison, it's a complete apples-to-apples comparison. The cost of a 10 terabyte disaster recovery appliance and 3 years of cloud backup. So you can see that all of the other vendors simply don't stack up the way that Infrascale does. We looked at Barracuda, Unitrends, Datto, and with Infrascale you can save up to 70% in comparison with others. And with Infrascale you only pay for what you protect. It's all based on the number of terabytes protected, right? And here's another way to look at it a little bit more closely. So this chart is summarizing all the key criteria that you want to be looking at when you're comparing different DRAS solutions. And you can see here what we looked at was a solution that's affordable. Does it offer cloud spillover to intelligently spill data over from the local appliance to the cloud? Does it have complete coverage? Push button failover, is that an option? How about encryption and security levels? Those encryption and security levels are especially important for those of you who need to comply with government regulations. If anyone on the line here needs HIPAA compliance, CGIS, PCI, Sarbanes-Oxley, and you name it, the list goes on. So if that is something that you're dealing with, you really need to make sure that you have a solution with the proper security and encryption built in, as well as secure data centers. All of our data centers are Tier 3 and Tier 4 military-grade data centers. So after we've looked at these pricing comparisons, just a quick reminder that our solution guarantees system failover from any disaster in 15 minutes or less at a fraction of the cost of others out there. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can actually see here, each red dot on this map represents a business that we protect. We're protecting thousands of businesses globally with our 16 geographically dispersed data centers. We're protecting over 900 partners that we're working with right now globally, over 100 million devices protected and counting. That's increasing all the time. Over 100 petabytes of data protected across our global grid. So with this in mind, now that we've heard this presentation, we know ransomware is the #1 cybersecurity threat. And enterprise cloud backup and disaster recovery is your #1 defense. So I'd like to offer everyone today for joining us 60 days of free Infrascale cloud backup to get it set up and test it out for yourself. And then if you like what you see, of course, I highly encourage everyone to add Infrascale disaster recovery on. But take those 60 days for yourself to really and get it set up. If you want to take advantage of this offer, just use the question tool there and then type in 60 days free, as simple as that. And then we'll get you set up with that free offer. Now I have one more poll here that I'd like to ask you guys. And in the meantime, go ahead and keep using that question tool to type in your 60 days free. You can also keep using that question tool to get your questions input, since we are going to be coming to the Q&A right after that. Now, it looks like I lost my screen share. Whoops, let me just get that back up. Well, it was just the last poll there. So let me launch the last poll. All right. Would you like to learn more about ransomware or BDR from Infrascale? Yes, I'd like to learn more about Infrascale and failover DR. Yes, I'd like more educational info, so we can get you some educational info on ransomware, on disaster recovery, on cloud backup, you name it. Or no, not really interested, just here to learn, which is great as well. And thank you for being here again. All right. And this is great. We actually have 100% of you have voted. Everyone participated in that poll, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for your participation. Let me go ahead and close that poll down then. And I am going to go back to the screen share that we had up so that I can bring up that 60 days free for you guys one more time. So let me back up to that last slide. There we go. All right, so thank you guys again for your time here. Now what we're going to do is jump into the Q&A. So I'm going to bring on the line our Senior Sales Engineer, Aaron Jordan. I see all those comments coming through and all the questions coming through with the 60 days free mention. So we will get you guys set up with that. Keep an eye out on your email inbox and also a call from us to get you set up with your free 60 days. And again, thank you for your time here with me. I'm going to pass it over to Aaron Jordan, our Senior Sales Engineer, for the Q&A. So take it away, Aaron.
Thank you for that, Carla. So, guys, I'm going to start reading these questions off, and as I am reading these off, please feel free to add additional ones as I go through these, so we can get all your questions answered. At the end of all of this, don't be shy. You can reach out to team at Infrascale, or you can, again, with the 60 days free, you can get us to get a demo for you. We can roll through this so we can make it a more personalized example of what's going on, so we can make sure that you guys, have a good grasp of what's available. With that being said, the first question I have is the backup real time, or can we determine the frequency of when each backup is snapshot? So the backup is actually on a schedule. You can set your own schedule. You can set how often it does its own fulls, how often it does its own incrementals, how often it does a differential. On top of that, you can choose to do bare metal backups, disaster recovery images, which are basically virtualized images of the physical Windows or the VM or Hyper-V. It also does file and folder backup. We also have native Exchange backup, so it covers all the database. It'll quiesce the database. It'll truncate the logs. It'll also allow you to do mailbox level recovery, so not just the actual database, but mailbox within that. And we also have an option to do file level recovery within the mailbox, so you can drill in and pull out attachments. And we also have SQL support for every version of SQL. So whether you're running one of those Microsoft databases, or even if you're running like Oracle or MySQL or Postgres or something like that, or Mongo, we have the ability to snapshot those as well, get clean backups of those. We get another question: what is the maximum number of users in an enterprise environment that Infrascale is catered for? So insofar as limitations, Infrascale doesn't have one. So you can deploy this and it can pick up any number of machines. Our ICB, which is our direct-to-cloud agent-based software, can pick up any number of users, any number of machines. The only thing we look at is storage. So we're looking at terabytes protected, and then we can go ahead and back all that up, and you can do any combination thereof. Now, if the other side of that question is, what's the biggest environment we've backed up? We've got multiple users that are in multiple petabytes themselves. So we have 100 petabytes in total, well, around more than that actually, which is rounding down for nice round numbers. But in that amount of storage that we back up across our all of our clients, but we have individuals that are over a petabyte themselves. So whether you are like doing this for a small mom and pop, all the way up to these global data center or global infrastructures that do heavy manufacturing, we can actually cover that. Same person asks, can we receive the questions and answers with them later at a later stage? So even better, this is recorded. So you can get yourself a recording of this. You can re-listen to all the answers. And even better than that, like I mentioned a moment ago, you can definitely have us reach out to you, and we can do a live demo of these products, and then we can answer the questions that are more important to you. So maybe something isn't asked today that you would like answered. Feel free to reach out. And again, Ashok, you got a lot of questions. Keep them coming. What bandwidth will be required for an initial backup of an enterprise? I take it after the first backup, the rest is incremental. So good questions. So this is actually where we start to get into more of the practice and how this is deployed. So the initial backup, it depends on how big it is and what type of files and what that time frame is. But generally speaking, we don't have a limit. I guess 1 megabit per second would be the limit, because that's what you at least have to have a decent enough internet connection for this type of stuff. But a couple megabits per second is enough to get the initial upload, especially if you utilize our seeding solution. So we actually will seed your data for you for free as part of the service. So if you need to get that data up in a hurry, we can get that up. And then, as you mentioned, generally speaking, all the rest will be incremental. Now, you do want to do like a new full every month, but the good news is we have this technology built into our appliance that's basically a cloud backup accelerator. It's called our DDFS AR. And what that does is it looks at all the data that's already on the cloud, and even if I'm going to send a brand new full or a brand new machine, it knows that, for example, if it's a 2008 R2 server and it already has a 2008 R2 server in the cloud, it can prevent it from having to send the OS data. So it can actually send over just the files that make it unique and rebuild it on the other side. So it's a powerful way to not only get your subsequent backups up quickly, but that will work whether they're fulls, differentials, incrementals, or even brand new machines that haven't been backed up yet. So lots of really cool stuff that we can do. And again, to get some real numbers on how that works out and to see what that can mean for you, I suggest definitely taking this up on a demo offer. Another question I get here, it says, what operating system do you support? So we have a lot. We have everything on the agent side for Windows, Mac, and iOS for the Apple products, Android for the Android products, but also the appliance can do, again, Windows, Mac, HPUX, Novell NetWare, AIX, FreeBSD, OpenServer, Sparks, both x80, or Solaris is both x86 and Spark versions. Windows, Linux, every version of Linux out there. So there's a lot of operating system support, and that's not even to mention that we can do host level snapshots, so no agent required for VMware and Hyper-V. So that doesn't matter what the operating system is on that guest, we'll be able to pick it up. Ashok, you ask again, what does Infrascale work, or how does it work on remote devices as well and as desktops? Yeah, so we have agents for the things that are mobile. So like your laptops, whether they're Mac or Windows, or if you have an Android or an iOS, phone or even a tablet, we do have agents for that, and those agents can be installed, and then they will replicate directly to the cloud for those instances. Ashok asks, again, if a device is stolen, can Infrascale perform a remote wipe? Actually, we can. So we do have the ability to not only track the device as it's moving around via IP tracking, but we can also tell you what's being backed up, and we can prevent you from losing that data or having somebody stealing that data by allowing you to delete both the items that are selected for backup, so it'll delete it locally but keep it in the cloud for nice recovery. But you can also choose the option to fry the machine. And what I mean by that is it'll be able to even delete system files culminating in a blue screen on that desktop or that laptop or whatever it is. So you definitely have that ability to remotely clear things off. And the best part is it requires additional authentication, so you can't just like leave your dashboard logged in and have somebody willy-nilly go in and start to purge your client's machines. It requires additional authentication to be able to start that purge process. And yeah, like you mentioned again, Ashok, we do have the ability to track these mobile devices as well. So you can find out where it's at, send the police to go pick up the device after you prevented that espionage or that data from being stolen or captured. All right, I hear someone saying, or they're asking, what about storage considerations? So I guess what you're implying is how we build the hardware out. I'll just be vague and say, well, not vague, but I'll tell you that there's a lot going on in the background. So the way we look at it is you say, I need to protect this much storage. And then a sales engineer will look at the environment and then size the box for its needs. And that will include its growth too, right? So the idea is I don't want you to have to keep replacing the appliance every time you turn around, right? We want to make sure that we can put something on site that will last you 3 years, and at least, right, because that's the default contract term. And if it doesn't, that we can quickly plug in like a more powerful CPU or more RAM or more storage space or whatever you need so that it can last with you much longer. Now the good news is those resource requirements, the compute that we're talking about for the RAM and the CPU, that won't cost you anything extra. We're just looking at total storage, and we want to make sure that whatever you're backing up will fit into that storage. So we sell you a service based off of the storage, and then whatever it takes to make it work properly, and then you can actually sign off and say you're happy with it before we, kind of pat ourselves on the back. We will allow you to have the resources required to make sure that runs efficiently, and also be able to do the booting at production level. What is your support like? Do you offer 24/7 support? Yes, we offer 24/7 stateside support. We have half of it based in Los Angeles, California. The other half is based in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have email system, live chat, a ticketing system, a knowledge base. We even have a phone line with a 1-hour SLA, regardless of the time of day that you call. So whether you have a quick question, you want to queue up for additional training, or you're going through a disaster and you need somebody to hold your hand on your rebuild, we've got you covered. And I should mention this too, all training on the device is included as part of the service. All support on the solution is included as well. And if you happen to have end users, say you're an MSP, we're more than happy to directly assist your end users as well if you would like. We give you that option to decide. But the point is we have no problem directly interfacing with your clients, fixing the problem, and then making sure that you guys are the ones that come out on top. Can you replicate to multiple cloud services? So we do have the ability to replicate to other cloud services like AWS, Azure. We also have, of course, our own default cloud. It's going to be probably cheaper overall because you're not having to pay for the storage input, the storage output, the resources upon booting, et cetera, et cetera. It's all included. So we do support multiple different cloud services, including Google and even your own private one if you wanted to. So if you need that, that's definitely available. The question, if we talk banks and financial companies, compliance or regulations apply. If info is backed up to servers in the U.S., How does it affect these regulations? So all of our data centers are Sarbanes-Oxley SAS-70 SSA E16 certified. They also support ISO 27001, 2, and 3. And on top of that, we also have FINRA, which is specifically for financial departments. We also have CGIS. So even if you have FBI data, which we do have clients that require, like police stations are a good example, that require this CGIS data center, we could protect you. So if you're landing the data in the United States, pretty much anything that you throw at us, we are certified for. And to that end, what I recommend, and I always recommend this, if we're a consideration for you, after we do our demo, you can always submit a support ticket asking for the data center information. And then if you sign an NDA, after getting some information for you, we'll be happy to send you all the certifications that our data centers have for use for auditing. So when somebody contacts you and says, can we have this information for auditing, we'll give it to you. Insofar as outside the United States, we do have, that's where Carla was talking about Tier 3 data centers. They do still have the same level of support for all of our compliance SOX, Sarbanes, SSA E16, SAS-70, also ISO 27001, 2, and 3. So we have all of those for those locations as well. It's just that the U.S. ones have armed guards up front. That's the difference. That's why it's Tier 4 to Tier 3. But we do have support for United Kingdom, South Africa, Australia, what else? Germany, Brazil, Canada, and I think there's like one or two other, I can't remember, but we have a great deal of external U.S. support in our data centers. I hope I answered your question. The next one is, what is the level 2, 3 support outside the United States? It's the same support. You'll get a phone number that you can call in, and it's all 24/7 stateside support. We will help you no matter what. And you still have that 1-hour SLA. So regardless of where you're at, you can call in to us, and we'll be able to help you out. Okay, any more questions from anyone? It looks like it's starting to slow down here. All right, I guess any more, you can just contact us. I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Carla, and she can talk about the next steps.
All right, yeah, thank you, Aaron. Again, we appreciate everyone being here today. We appreciate your time. That was a great Q&A. Thank you, Aaron, for being here and all those questions that came through. Again, on your screen here is the 60 days free to get you guys all set up and tested out for yourselves now that we've answered all those last-minute questions that you had. So I would definitely encourage you to use that question tool if you haven't yet, and just type in 60 days free, and then we'll contact you to get you set up with that. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and we very much look forward to working with you in the future. Bye now.